Special edition of Top Prospects here in Penn State Sports Night. Logan Bourandas joined, as always, by Chris Lemmo, but we have not one, but we have two special guests here. There's been a little debate on who the best duo is in Sports Night. Obviously, Chris and I run Top Prospects, but we also have Carlos Garcia returning for his second appearance on the show, and Brandon Conroy coming in for his first appearance on the show. But how are you guys doing today?
I'm doing great, man. It's a pleasure to be back on the podcast, and like you were saying, we have the two dynamic duos of Sports Night. So it's going to be fun to see all the hot takes we have today on the show.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I'm happy to be here. Happy that it's my first time. Carlos and I feel strongly that we're the best duo. So being able to hash it out today, talk some baseball with the boys, we're very excited.
Good to have Sports Night's own Top Prospects on here. You guys, two of the best freshmen out there. But excited to talk some NL baseball with you guys. Maybe we'll have some time for AL, but we'll see.
Yeah, so baseball with the boys, like Brendan said it. So like the way this is going to do it, this is going to be a full-on MLB season predictions show here on Top Prospects. We're going to go division by division. I know Carlos and Chris did a segment on the NL. I did a segment on the AL. We're going to go through each division. So we're going to go right underway with it. We're going to start out with the AL East, I believe we're going to start out with. So Conroy's own Boston Red Sox in his favorite division. So I'm going to start it out with you. You can just go 1 to 5 and just make those predictions like that.
Absolutely. And, you know, being somebody who's wearing a Red Sox jersey, these rankings are definitely going to be difficult. I'll start at 5 just because I want to build the way up. I'm going to put the Orioles in 5th. Not anything against the Orioles, but as we know, they've been struggling recently. They don't have really anybody like a top guy that they can use to help them. I looked through their lineup the other day. I don't recognize any of the names from the past 5 years. They used to have Chris Davis, Adam Jones, all those top guys, and now they're struggling. They don't have any big guy that they can use. They have some spots in the middle infield, but not enough to get them going that far. Number 4, as tough as this is, I'm going to have to put the Red Sox there only because the other 3 teams are just so dominant. The Yankees, especially the Rays, coming off of a reigning AL championship season. It's tough to do that, but I'm going to put the Red Sox at 4. I do like what they have being produced, though. Sale may be back coming in May. If he is, great. If not, I personally have no problem with that. He'll come back better than ever in August when we need him the most, or whenever whatever's comfortable with him. That's fine with me. Regardless of that, the Red Sox do have a potential Rookie of the Year candidate in Bobby Dulabek. So he's playing second base for them right now. Obviously, Pedroia is retired, so hopefully he'll start to make the transition into there. He has Chavis at first base. He has Bogarts at shortstop. Kike Hernandez now also can play second base. They're a great team, but when we get into the next teams, they are just bigger powerhouses, which it makes it that much harder for Boston to be able to compete with them, as hard as it is to say. And then coming in number 3, I'm going to say the Rays. I know I talked about them being the reigning AL champs. However, when we get into the Blue Jays, I'm going to just tell you now, Blue Jays at number 2, it makes a lot more sense for many reasons. But the Rays, they have Randy, I'm going to mess up his name, Arozarena. He's a great guy. Obviously, we saw him play last year. He had 11 home runs in the certain span of that ALCS. He played phenomenally. Against the Yankees was one of the greatest series I've ever watched of all time, just because it was 2 of the most dominant teams in the AL East. I love the AL East. I love watching those games. I have it on my TV all day. That was exciting to me. It was cool to see that, and the Rays really proved themselves. Then at number 2 are the Blue Jays. They just got George Springer. That really goes without saying. They have Vlad Guerrero Jr. You see him being advertised everywhere. He's one of those young guys, along with Tatis and Ronald Acuna Jr., that nobody's sleeping on. They're expecting them to deliver. They just picked up one of the Astros guys. Like I said, that's just going to make them that much better. I mean, I'm excited to see the season, definitely. And moving on to number 1, I just get even more excited, even though I'm not a big fan of this team. But the Yankees, if they can deliver, if they can be at the caliber that they have been in the most recent years, I do believe we will see them making a potential run in the playoffs. Aaron Judge, it all comes down to Judge. And I know it's a 9-person team and there's 9 guys on a baseball team, but Aaron Judge needs to deliver. We've seen him as a strikeout or a home run hitter. But why can't he get up and then why can't he get up and hit singles? Why can't he hit doubles? Same thing with Giancarlo Stanton. He's been struggling. he hasn't been hitting the same he has. And a lot of those strikeout or home runs, they've been strikeouts. We don't like seeing that. They still have Andujar, who's young. They have Gleyber Torres, also young. So they have those, young guys. And the funny thing about the Yankees franchise is, I like what Hunter said in our segment the other day, the rich just keep getting richer. They have Garrett Cole. I mean, they still have him. They had him before. It's one of those things where the only people that can compete with them are the Dodgers. And if we see a Yankees-Dodger matchup, I know that's far along the road. I wouldn't be surprised. Obviously, I hope it goes in a different direction. I like seeing things switch up, especially in baseball. I like to see a lot of teams win, and switch out who gets to the playoffs. But definitely, I feel like we're going to see a lot of Yankees, Blue Jays, Rays, Red Sox, Orioles type of standings in this upcoming season.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, definitely this is one of the AL East has to be one of the divisions that really, I wouldn't say 1 through 5 can compete for a playoff spot, but I will say 1 through 4, just based on the fact that a lot of these teams they have young prospects and the top guys in the league right now. But I'll start at 5 too. I gotta go with the Baltimore Orioles right now. Really, like Brendan was saying, they don't have a big name that's really like a standout guy, as he mentioned as well. Adam Jones, Chris Davis, all those guys that used to take them to the playoffs and stuff like that. But now definitely they're like one of the bottom teams in the league. And what I really like about the Orioles is just the fact that their farm system and the a cliche, but their top prospects, really they're guys that they have a good farm system. They have a couple guys in the top 100. So that's really going to take them to a bright future. But right now, not really a big team that I'm high on in terms of making the playoffs and one of the weaker teams in the division. And then at number 4, I also have the Red Sox just because, the star-studded division that they have. A lot of guys, they lost Jackie Bradley Jr. in the offseason. And, of course, we saw losing Mookie Betts a couple of years ago. And then he goes and translates that to a World Series ring with the Dodgers. So the fact that the Red Sox weren't able to pay their big guys and keep those big names. And, of course, they also lost a guy like Andrew Benintendi to the Royals. So definitely they lost a lot of big pieces. So that's why I think they're not really going to translate that into regular season success, as well as postseason success as well. So that's why I don't really think the Red Sox are on the right path right now. In terms of the future, I think they're kind of in a rebuilding phase, and it's really going to see the lack of talent that they have. Moving on to number 3, I also have the Tampa Bay Rays. We saw that they won the NL, the pennant last year, but they really, when we look at this division, there's just the teams, the Toronto Blue Jays and the young talent they had, and then of course the Yankees. But definitely the Rays, they have a young guy in Randy Arozarena who's gonna win. Arguably, he's gonna win the NL Rookie of the Year this year because he only was eligible for, I want to say the majority of the postseason. He really only started playing at those final games of the season. So definitely they're led by some young guys and stuff, but definitely I think what's going to take them to the postseason, if they can, is going to be their pitching. We saw that they lost Blake Snell in the offseason, but definitely riding the pitching wave of guys like Tyler Glasnow and some of those other pitchers. So definitely if they can really shape up and not focus too much on losing a star ace like Blake Snell, I think they'll be just fine. And then moving on to number 2, I have the Toronto Blue Jays because Bo Bichette, Vlad Guerrero Jr., those guys really are looking like studs right now. We saw what Vlad Guerrero did in his first season last year, and he made the home run derby, just that absolute monster power that he has. And of course, Bo Bichette, a top talent in the league, and he's really being a rising star in this league. But definitely, I like where they're going, and especially some of their younger guys, such as Austin Martin, one of their top 100 guys. So I think that definitely this team is going to be on the right path. I don't think they'll make a wild card spot this year just because of the talent in the NL. But I think they're definitely on the right path in terms of future years, and they'll be on their way to a postseason berth in a couple of years. And then rounding out this division, I have the Yankees. We know it comes as no surprise. This is going to be probably the best team in the NL. They're probably going to make the World Series this year just because of the fact that they have a star-studded roster. Obviously, we have the big names in Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, and then of course you move to the pitching side of things, and you have guys like Corey Kluber who are on this team still. So definitely tons of big names on this Yankees team. And they're just, once again, like Brendan was saying, the rich get richer. And this is a team that's just throwing out money and getting all those big names to come to play for the Yankees. Probably a world-renowned institution, and everybody knows who the New York Yankees are. So definitely a huge team. And if they can translate the postseason success, I really have to see how they're going to use those bats this year, because coming from a guy who's from Miami and a Marlins fan, I saw Giancarlo Stanton and his rise to fame. So, but really a guy who's been polarized in his career because number one of his injuries, and then number two, he's kind of a guy who's either swing for the fences or just swing and strike out. So he's a guy who he can give you 50 home runs in a season, but he can also give you upwards of like 60 strikeouts or something like that. So definitely it's really going to be difficult to see how those bats translate into regular season success. But I think the Yankees will be just fine, and they're definitely the favorites and the contenders to be facing off against the Dodgers in the World Series.
Yeah, definitely not going to really disagree with you guys a whole lot here. Unfortunately, I do have to put the Orioles at number 5. You know, I would love, trust me, I would love to put the Orioles higher in that division. There's a couple players that I do think are going to have really interesting seasons. Austin Hayes has been awesome in spring training. He's hit like around 400 with 4 homers. Ryan Mountcastle's really good. So they have some pieces, and obviously they have a lot more in the farm coming up. So, you know, I think this is kind of one of those years where, again, you look at the way the players develop rather than the overall record. But I do think they'll be in line for another top 5 pick. And if they keep, you know, picking well the way they have, then they'll add another big piece to their farm system in the next draft. But I'm going to go with number 4 with the Red Sox. I actually debated putting them even higher, up towards 3, because I do like that that lineup. You know, I mean, Rafael Devers and Bogarts are really good. And really, that entire lineup can hit pretty well. That's not the problem. The problem is that the rotation to me is still kind of iffy. I mean, Nick Pivetta, as a Phillies fan, I have been waiting on the Nick Pivetta breakout. I mean, honestly, knowing the Phillies' history, he will break out, and it will probably be with the Red Sox. But until it happens, you know, that's a hole in the rotation. Garrett Richards has been really good, but he hasn't really been able to stay healthy. Nate Eovaldi is good, but again, they don't really have like a top of the line guy, and I don't really love their bullpen either. Their pitching overall is probably better than last year. Last year was really bad, but I still don't like them enough to put them higher. And then at number 3, I got Tampa. You know, I debated with them, but they're kind of the opposite of the Red Sox in that I like their pitching. I don't like their lineup. The lineup, to me, outside of Arozarena and then Austin Meadows and I guess maybe Brandon Lau, is kind of very hit or miss. You know, they don't really have a superstar. You know, maybe that's going to be Arozarena this year, but they don't have a guy that has a consistent track record of hitting for years, which a lot of other teams have. But I do think the pitching will be fine, even despite losing Snell. They got a lot of pitching prospects. Tyler Glasnow is great stuff. He just hasn't really put it all together for a full season. And then at number 2, obviously I got Toronto. I actually do have them making the wild card spot here, because I do think they're going to go out and acquire more pitching. Their starting pitching is really iffy outside of Ryu, but they do have the bullpen is really good there. The lineup is obviously stacked with a lot of young talent. And then they do have a couple guys that they could call up, both in their lineup and pitching wise, in Nate Pearson, if he actually gets back to what I think he can become. And then at number 1, the obvious choice really is the Yankees. I mean, there's just, again, it's the evil empire, the Yankees. It's kind of hard to find anything wrong with that team. I mean, the lineup, I think, might be a little bit overrated, but it's still very good. And then obviously the rotation, I think, is going to get even better, especially if Luis Severino comes back to what I think, you know, what he was and what I think he can be. And you add that in with Garrett Cole, Corey Kluber, and Jamison Taillon, it's going to be a really good rotation. So no doubt to me that the Yankees win that division and the Orioles in last. I guess the middle of the pack may be up for some debate, though.
It doesn't make for exciting hashtag content that we're going to start out this podcast with similar picks, but I'm going exactly the same pretty much. 5 Orioles, they've been kind of rebuilding for quite some time now. We're going to start to see some of their prospects come up, Adley Rutschman potentially being one of them this year, but I have them being 5. The Red Sox at 4, they got rid of their outfield that won the World Series championship in 2018, Jackie Bradley Jr. in Milwaukee, and then Andrew Benintendi in Kansas City. So the Red Sox, they're still kind of rebuilding there. We might see Chris Sale return at some point in the year, but I don't think he'll really do much to help the standings. I'm going to go with the Rays at 3. And now this is really the big debate between 3 and 2 for me with the Blue Jays and the Rays. But the lineup just doesn't excite me for Tampa Bay. Arozarena is going to be the best player in that lineup. And it's interesting because he's going to parlay that postseason run last year into a contract extension that's being worked on as we speak. So that could be a potentially big thing. They do still have a solid rotation, but they lost out on Blake Snell to the San Diego Padres. They did replace him with Chris Archer, but as Pirates fans know, that's not really the best replacement. And then the Blue Jays, I'm going to have them at 2. Their rotation, as Chris said, it's very iffy. Looking at the rotation, they just have Ryu, and then they traded for Steven Matz, which as a Mets fan, I could confidently say it is not a solid acquisition. Maybe they can get someone at the deadline. And with their farm system, I have a lot of faith in them to do that. The one problem with this lineup is that George Springer is going to start out on IL. He just opened up the season on IL. So we'll see how they kind of stay afloat these first couple weeks. And then the Yankees going to be at number 1. Not really much of a contest there for me. They're pretty much projected to make the World Series every single year. I think this year is no different. They do have a lot of names on that lineup. They always do. But the rotation is really where this team's improved. Jamison Tyon coming in from Pittsburgh. He's always been a reliable pitcher in his time with the Pirates. And if Corey Kluber can kind of bounce back at least close to what he was in Cleveland, I think this Yankees rotation alongside guys like Garrett Cole and Severino, I think they should be just fine to finish first in that division and become World Series contenders. So moving in now to one of the more less exciting divisions in the world of baseball, looking at the AL Central, there's really just 2 teams here who have a shot, at least in my mind, to compete in the White Sox and the Twins. And it's just really kind of a matter of where those teams end up. So I'm going to start out with you, Chris. What are your predictions for this division?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's pretty clear the Tigers are in last. I mean, that lineup is probably one of the worst in baseball right now. They got a lot of good pitching depth on the farm, but outside of Spencer Torkelson, their recent draft pick, they don't really have a ton coming up in terms of position players. So that'll be probably who they focus on with their upcoming couple of top picks. But yeah, no, I don't expect them to be competitive. The only thing to really watch at that team will be, again, the rotation with Tarek Skubal and Casey Mize, 2 of their top prospects there, making their, kind of solidifying their turn in the rotation. But at number 4, Kansas City, again, not all that exciting. They did get Andrew Benintendi, who I think is vastly overrated. I actually, I thought he was overrated before, but now I kind of think he's going to bounce back. I think people have said he's so overrated to the point where now he might actually be underrated. But I think he'll have a bounce back year. Look, I don't think he's ever going to be to the point where his breakout season was in Boston, but obviously he's a lot better than he showed last year. So that was probably a good trade for them, a buy low candidate, honestly. I mean, I think his stock is only going to go up. I just don't think he's going to be like a star or anything. And then let's see here. I mean, honestly, nothing outside of him and Whit Merrifield, nothing really excites me about that team. And then you go to number 3, it's Cleveland. Cleveland, the same, basically. I mean, they lost Lindor, so that's going to be really tough to replace him with Andres Jimenez, a guy that you know well, Logan, from his Mets debut last year. That lineup also doesn't excite me at all, besides Jose Ramirez and I guess Eddie Rosario. Again, they have a really good rotation. It's basically your typical Cleveland team, but they got worse because they don't have Lindor. Good bullpen, good pitching. The lineup is suspect. And then at number 2, who could battle for a wild card spot, I think they will get a wild card spot. I'm going to put Chicago. That lineup is really good for the White Sox, and it will only get better late in the year when Jimenez hopefully comes back. And then obviously they got Giolito, Keuchel, and Lynn. That's an awesome trio there. Really not a lot of holes on this team. The bullpen is solid with Liam Hendricks. The lineup is solid. The only thing is that they're a young team, so you might have some ups and downs with them. But overall, I mean, I think they're going to get a wild card spot and be a very good team. And then number 1 is Minnesota. I debated putting the White Sox there for a while, but I think overall, they have a little bit more depth and a little bit more experience, which I value a little bit more there. So I'm going to have to go with the Twins at number 1, but I do think the wild card, it goes to the White Sox in that division.
Yeah, this is definitely has to be one of the weaker divisions, I'd say, in terms of, I mean, besides the Twins and the White Sox, basically everyone else is, I would say, rebuilding or young teams. Um, so definitely, I'll start off at 5. I have to say, bottom of this is definitely got to be Detroit. You know, besides they have the ageless wonder Miguel Cabrera, but besides that, I don't really see anyone else. Weak lineup, weak pitching. So definitely, just they would have to look to the prospects and the future to see where this team goes. But definitely weak team. I don't like them at all. At 4, I'll go. It's tough. I mean, it's between. I'm gonna go with Kansas City. Just actually no, I'm gonna go with Cleveland at 4. Just because of the fact that they lost Lindor. Huge. That's a huge hole to fill. I wouldn't say he's a generational talent, but he's definitely one of the top guys in the league right now. So definitely, I don't think you can fill a hole like that with any player right now in the league. So that they're definitely going to be lacking from that, and they're going to see a lot of issues in terms of Lindor and what he really brought to that team. And then I'll go number 3. I'll put the Royals. It really depends on how Benintendi plays because, like you were saying, Chris, I mean, he's a guy who's kind of overrated. But just due to the fact that a lot of people think he's overrated, I like the signing just in the terms that it's low risk, high reward. Because if he plays well, you get a lot of good out of it. But if he plays bad or mediocre play, you know, it's kind of what you expected from him. So I think that I kind of like the signing. We'll see where he goes from there. But obviously the pitching, guys like Wade Miley and some of the other guys in the bullpen. So I think I like it. That's why I have him at 3. And then at number 2, I have the White Sox. I like their bullpen as well and their young guys. Tim Anderson, obviously we saw what he did, and Jose Abreu, the MVP last year. But I still think this team is a little young. I think they'll make it as a wild card spot, no doubt. But definitely, it's going to be exciting to see where they go and how they progress. Their young guys progress, especially. I'm looking at Tim Anderson. I'm really high on him right now. He's going to be a guy who's going to be the face of the league in a few years. I mean, he already is. He's got that swagger when he goes up to the plate. So definitely, he's a lot of guys that a lot of Southside Chicago kids are looking forward to. And they're getting into the sport just because they're looking up to a guy like him. So definitely the White Sox are on the right path with a young guy like him. And then finally, rounding out, I got the Twins just because they got, you know, Josh Donaldson and some of those other guys. And I think they're really going to compete and they're going to take this division. If they can really compete in terms of the playoff, and obviously Kenta Maeda, some of those other guys in the pitching. But definitely, I think the Twins are, I would say they're like a top 7 team right now in the league. So definitely they're going to compete for a chance at a championship. So I really like where Minnesota's going.
Yeah, definitely. And like I like what you said, Logan. This is kind of a boring division in a way, but at the same time, I like what we've been talking about. I'm gonna get to Benintendi. I will talk about that. My list is a little different from you guys, but I was starting off. We're gonna have to put the Tigers at 5. I want to apologize to our close friend Lexi, but I just cannot have them higher than 5. Like we talked about, they have Miguel Cabrera. He's an older player. You know, he's a veteran. They've had him for he started at 3rd and then he plays 1st now. He can play wherever, but he's old. They don't have anybody else. They have Wilson Ramos. That's not a bad pickup, but I feel like he kind of deteriorated over the years as a Cub, and that really won't do much for the Tigers just in this year, in the state that they're in. I can't see them going anywhere other than 5 in the standings, and that's all I have to say about them. Coming in at number 4, though, this one was definitely tricky because I like both the Royals and the White Sox just because of the 2 teams that they are. I'll put the Indians at 4 just because, like you guys were saying, like they lost Lindor. They don't really have anybody exciting, anybody that you can say, oh, I want to go to the game to see this guy or I want to buy his jersey. They do have Jose Ramirez, who a couple years ago and even last year was in the contention for AL MVP. That's awesome. But will we see that from him this year? I don't know. And even if we do, they still need a full team. They need a rotation. You can't just have your first baseman be an MVP and win it all. That's not how it works. Defense wins championships. You need a better rotation. Losing a shortstop of that caliber, like I said before, one player on the team, that one does make a big impact, though, especially a guy like Francisco Lindor, who's consistently good, gets on base. I mean, what more could you ask for from a shortstop like that? And then you give him up to a big market team in New York who's just going to, treat him perfectly, and he's going to probably thrive there. It sucks to see that. Nobody likes seeing that. But, I mean, the Indians lost that guy. Will they do well? We'll have to see. And now here's where it gets a little different from you guys. So at number 3, I want to go with the Royals at 3, because I do agree that their team as a whole definitely is looked at a little bit as not overrated, but people definitely expect more from them than they're actually able to deliver. What I mean by that is they have Salvador Perez. They re-signed him. That was a big re-signing for them, but he's not going to do much. Benintendi, now I can't say he's overrated, and that's not me as a Red Sox fan. That's just me as somebody who's been to the Red Sox games. I've seen him firsthand. I've seen him in person warming up. He's a phenomenal player. 2018 was his best season. He was phenomenal. He had a home run in his first at-bat of the opening day, and then continued to have an amazing season like that for the rest of the year, eventually to be crowned a World Series champion. I think that's a great pickup for the Royals, and I like what Chris and Carlos were saying. Low risk for high reward. They're getting a guy like Benintendi when they're giving up guys that they don't even need, or like scraps, I like to say, and you're getting a guy like Andrew Benintendi, 5'11", 175-pound, perfect guy on your team. He hits well. He fields well. We saw his catches against the Astros in the ALCS in 2018. He's a defensive machine. If you guys want to say that's overrated, please just watch. I believe it was game 5 of the ALCS in 18. I was up to 1:30 that morning. I will never be okay with saying Benintendi is overrated. I love that guy. And with all that, he's a defensive lock, and I can't wait to see what the Royals do. I'll have them on as well as the Red Sox all season just to follow him. But heading up to number 2, this is where you guys might, feel a little differently than me. I'm going to have to put the Twins at number 2, and I only say that because when I get to the White Sox, I'm very excited about this team. I love this team. The Twins. I love Josh Donaldson. I liked him when he was on the Blue Jays. He's a great guy. He's a great player. He can throw it from one knee. He can do what everybody else can do. He's like an Arenado, maybe not that good, but he's still well enough, especially for the division he's in. He's arguably the best shortstop in the division now that, Lindor's in New York. So the question is, will that help them enough? I mean, theoretically it could, because having a guy like that at third base, is excellent. It's like Benintendi. It's another defensive lock. He doesn't have to worry about any other third baseman or shortstop in the division potentially being better than him. He just has to focus on the Tigers and the Indians. The White Sox are definitely challenging, as well as the Royals. But if I put those teams there, all we have left is the White Sox and the Twins. So they should have no issue snagging at least a wild card spot in that division. And wrapping it up with the White Sox, I love this team. I like what Carlos said. I wanted to say that too. Tim Anderson is just a beauty. He flips the bat. He does whatever he wants. He reminds me of Fernando Tatis, Ronald Acuna Jr., those types of guys. I love seeing those guys. You know me. I love the best teams. I love the good teams, and I love seeing guys just have fun. They're having fun. Not to mention Jose Abreu, alongside Freddie Freeman. He just won the AL MVP, his respective side, the American League. Dude's not slowing down anytime soon. If he just won the MVP, we saw the same thing with Betts. Betts won the MVP, and he didn't have any, karma. He immediately kept picking it up and won the World Series. So with that being said, even last year, the White Sox, I was following them, and I had this feeling, and I said this about UCLA. I said something might happen with them against Michigan. It did. The White Sox guys, I'm telling you, if they do good and if they push for the first place spot in that division, the AL Central, I will not be surprised. I like what they're producing, and I want to see what they're going to do as the season goes on, as opening day starts tomorrow.
So this might be boring, but I'm going to agree with Conroy here on my predictions 5-1. So number 5, I'm going to go with the Tigers. Not much to get excited about there. Again, apologies to Lexi, like Brandon said, not much to be excited about. And looking at Wilson Ramos these past 2 years as a Met, he just can't play the field anymore. So if he's a starting catcher for Detroit, there's a problem there. At number 4, I'm going to go with Cleveland here. And looking at the guys they have Jose Ramirez, great third baseman. They have a great pitching staff led by a Cy Young winner, Shane Bieber. But my expectation is they already traded away Francisco Lindor and Carlos Carrasco to the Mets. And I think they're going to continue that fire sale. They traded away Mike Clevenger at the start of last season as well. And I think the Indians realize they can't really compete right now. So I'm expecting guys like Beaver and Ramirez to potentially be on different teams by the time the deadline rolls around. Even if it's not them, it might be Zach Flesack, who tried to get traded last year as well. So I think that when it comes down to the second half of the season, the Indians will not be the same team whatsoever. I think they're definitely a third place team in this division right now. But if they are serious on selling and they do act on it, I think that they will fall to fourth. And looking at the Royals at 3, I like the offense that they're being built right now. They got Benintendi, who he's a reliable outfielder. They have Jorge Soler, who hits bombs at right field and DH. And they got Salvador Perez back on an extension. So I like the offense that's being built there in Kansas City. And the Benintendi moves shows that they're actually going to try and buy. Like they're actually trying to make moves to slowly push with this roster. And as guys like Bobby Witt Jr. enter the team through the minor leagues, this team could be a problem down the road. Not right now, but I think they will be a third place team just due to the weak division. And then looking at number 2, I do have the Twins there. I do like the Andrelton Simmons signing, but I think just compared to the White Sox, this team's just aging. And Josh Donaldson, he was brought in to be a really good signing for the Twins. It was a good signing when it happened. He was just hurt a lot of the year. And when he did play, he wasn't the same. I'm not really expecting Nelson Cruz, especially in a full season now, to have the season he had last year. He's getting close to his 40s if he's not already there. I do think that he'll continue to age a little bit. We'll start to finally see signs of decline from him. And if that's your starting DH, then that's a problem. And then just compared to the White Sox, who I have at number 1, I love the pitching staff that they're starting to build. They traded for Lance Lynn, which I thought was an underrated trade coming over from Texas. They signed Liam Hendricks from Oakland to be their closer. And I know people hated the Tony La Russa hiring at manager when that first happened, but he's the experienced guy. He won World Series with the Cardinals. He's been around as a manager for a very long time now. He's already in the Hall of Fame. So I don't really think the youth is going to be a problem too much with this White Sox team. And they got a wild card berth last year. So they already made pushes to compete in those years past. So I do think that the White Sox can take the next step and win that division. So now capping off the American League, we have a division that's even weaker than the AL Central in my mind. In the AL West, and the Astros, they were one game away from going to the World Series rather a year ago. And with teams like the A's and the Angels kind of slowly declining a little bit, it might be an easier road for them. But I'm going to start out with you, Carlos. What do you have?
Yeah, definitely the AL West has to be the weakest division in not only the American League, but probably in all of baseball right now, just because the fact that we see a lot of the top teams in the division, probably the Houston Astros and the Angels. They're teams that, I mean, they have the power, but really haven't translated any postseason success, especially talking about the LA Angels. But at the bottom of the division, I have the Texas Rangers. I mean, they don't really have any big names, and they're just really a team that's on the decline. They haven't been a good team since, I don't know, probably like 2015, I'd say, just to throw out a year, but definitely a team that's weak. And then following up after them, it's got to be the Oakland Athletics. I mean, Moneyball, a great movie, but this team is definitely not it right now. I mean, I still think they're playing Moneyball. They don't have, I mean, they have a couple big names in terms of their hitters right now. I'm looking here like Matt Chapman, Matt Olson, and then a guy like Steven Piscotty in the outfield. But definitely a team that's been lacking a lot of star talent and a team that really won't translate any regular season success or postseason success in the next couple of years. And then moving on, in third place, I have the Seattle Mariners, a team that I really like in terms of their future has to be the Mariners, just due to the fact that they have a good farm system. Right now, they have 6 top 100 prospects. And at the top of that list is Jared Kelenic and Julio Rodriguez. They're the number 4 and number 5 ranked prospects, respectively. And then they're both in the outfield. And these are the guys that they have out of those 6 top 100 prospects, 3 of them are under 21. So I think the future is bright for the Mariners, but I don't think that they can compete in a division or in the AL in terms of that. So definitely bright future, but not this year, not in the next couple of years. And then in second, I have the Angels. You know, Mike Trout, man, this is a guy who I like to talk about just because, and I talked about this last time I was on the podcast and in the Sports Night, the episode of the NL preview, but I think Mookie Betts is better than Mike Trout right now, just due to the fact of the postseason success. Right now, Mookie Betts, he has 2 rings, and he won with the Red Sox, and then he wanted that big contract. He didn't get it with the Red Sox, so he left, and in his first year with the Dodgers, he got a ring. And some might say it was a faux ring because of a 60-game season and whatnot, and of that star-studded roster. But I think right now, Mike Trout, if he wants to win, he's got to leave the Angels. There's just no getting around it. No putting like some fluff on it. Listen, this guy's never going to win with the Angels. They have Shohei Ohtani, great guy, a dual threat on the mound and at the plate, but definitely Mike Trout, if he wants to really show and cement his legacy, I mean, he's already a future Hall of Famer, no doubt, but I think he needs a couple rings, maybe one ring under his belt. So if he wants to win, he's got to get out of LA. And then lastly, rounding out the division here, the Houston Astros, a very polarizing team. I'm looking right now around for a trash can. Maybe I can bat it a couple times, and we'll see if one of them, maybe a star guy like Altuve or Carlos Correa, will appear. But definitely, this is a team that, like I said, polarizing. But this team is easily the favorite to win this division. They got the star-studded. They lost a couple of pitchers like Garrett Cole, and then of course they lost a guy like George Springer in the outfield. But I still think the infield, I think they'll be just fine. Of course, Altuve, Alex Bregman, Carlos Correa. So I think they'll be fine, and I think they'll definitely take this division, the AL West. So definitely the Astros. We'll see how it translates in the postseason. Maybe they'll play fairly this time, but I think that this team will be just fine in making the playoffs.
Yeah, I have to agree. This is a pretty weak division. Definitely the Rangers, though, in last. They're going to be on a slow rebuild. They waited way too long to sell, and they haven't drafted well at all, quite frankly. So they're in a bit of trouble here. I'm not really sure what they're going to do. In fact, I think Joey Gallo, if he actually has a bounce back year this year, I think he gets moved at the deadline. I mean, last year he hit 181. That's not going to do it. I mean, for him, I think obviously his power is awesome, but his strikeout rate for me, if I'm building a team, I can't have a guy on my team that's going to strike out 35, 40% of the time. Like I get that, I'd rather have the on-base percentage guy. I get that the power is important, but it's excessive to me with him. And I mean, it kind of culminated last year in a really down year. So if he can regain his value, though, he's going to be going at the deadline because they need to restack that farm system. In my mind, they still have a bottom 10 farm system easily and a bottom 5 team in the league. And then I look at number 4. I probably got to go with Seattle, but there's definitely a big up arrow, as you said there, Carlos. They got an awesome farm system, 2 dynamic outfielders. Now, Kyle Lewis is going to start on the IL, but they do have Jared Kelenic and Julio Rodriguez, who both, definitely Kelenic might be up this year. So that would be a big boost for them. And, you combine that would be a great 3-man outfield, really young 3-man outfield going into 2022 and 23. So they're on the rise for sure out there. I think this will be the last year that they're, 4th, 5th, towards the bottom of the division. They already got the Athletics, just because you can't really count them out, but they do kind of look a bit like a retirement home right now. I mean, Jed Lowry is 37, and I'm pretty sure I played a baseball game more recently than he has. Mitch Moreland is also really old. Elvis, I don't know how Elvis Andrus is only 32, because I'm pretty sure that kid was playing baseball when I came out of the womb 21 years ago at this point. He's ancient, but that whole team, to me, I don't know. I think a lot of them are past their prime. Matt Chapman, Matt Olson, Sean Murphy, those are probably the core 3. Ramon Laureano is good too. Other than that, the rotation and bullpen are good enough that I think they're a 3rd place team. Second, I'm going to go the LA Angels. I don't think they make the playoffs again this year, but I do think they get out of the basement. With Trout, Rendon, and now Ohtani. And then, by the way, I love David Fletcher. David Fletcher, if I had to describe a comp for my Little League baseball career, it's David Fletcher, the short middle infield that's a slap hitter that just gets on base. That would be me. I'm just a big David Fletcher guy. If I'm a GM, he has a spot on my team 100 times out of 100. I love that guy. So I think between those four, I think the offense is going to be good. They still have kind of a boom bust lineup there where the bottom half of the lineup is pretty bad still. And then the rotation's better, but still not good. Dylan Bundy obviously had a really good year last year. They got Jose Quintana, who's like a fine number 4 pitcher. I mean, Ohtani, again, a lot of this will kind of depend on how Ohtani pitches. If Ohtani comes back and pitches really well, then they're definitely the second best team in the AL West. If he comes back and isn't good, then they may be worse than this. And then at number 1, Houston. I mean, again, there's nothing that's really impressive to me. I mean, they're one of the worst division leaders in my opinion. The lineup is really good, but the bullpen and rotation, they don't have a lot of depth should some of these guys go down because they're already missing Framber Valdez and Justin Verlander. So to me, if they get a lot of pitching injuries, they're going to struggle because their farm system is out now. I mean, they've completely depleted it to the point where they'll have to start rebuilding at some point pretty soon, I would think.
Yeah, and I love talking about this division. For the first time ever, I'm going to agree with something Carlos said. Marcus Lynn Betts, Mookie Betts, is the best player in baseball. He's the number 1 guy. It's him, and then Trout if you want, and Tatis, Acuna, whoever you want. But Mookie is the best, and that hurts the Angels because Mike Trout is their best guy. He's been the best player in baseball for the past 10 years. He's finished, I believe, in it's like the top 5 in MVP voting for all those 10 years. The worst was like 4th place. Other than that, he either wins the MVP or gets second. That's great and all, but Mookie Betts came along and has stolen the show. He runs the other. Sorry, what word am I looking for? The National League. Sorry, brain fart. He runs the National League. But on this side, in the American League West, this is a tough division just because all of these teams are struggling. First off, who are the Texas Rangers? I don't even know if this is a team anymore that I can confidently say can play baseball. They have Rougned Odor, like we said. I don't know if he's anything at this point more than just a fighter. He likes to give the guys a 1-2 Mayweather, but other than that, can he hit the ball? Can he field? I don't know. They're struggling. They got Joey Gallo. They still have Chris Davis, but at the same time, what will those guys do? Have they been producing lately? No. Davis, ever since he left the Brewers, hasn't done anything. These guys are, although they're big names, it's a horrible production crew. It's like the last people you'd want to build a house. They can't produce, they can't build, they just can't do anything at all right now. And that's going to hurt them out in the long run, especially for this season and even in the seasons to come. But at number 4, I got to put the Mariners. Honestly, the Mariners, that is a name I have not heard in a while. Nobody talks about the Mariners, just as they should. They have Kyle Seager. He's 33 years old. James Paxton is a phenomenal pitcher, but other than that, you can't have one guy in a rotation and win. We look at teams like the Dodgers and the Yankees, the 2 powerhouses, and their rotations are phenomenal. They're full of 4 to 5 guys that are all strong, have great arms, and that aren't injured. Those teams aren't hurt by injuries. The Mariners, regardless of injuries, they just don't have anybody to put in. So if they are to lose somebody, such as Paxton, where do you go from there? How do you get better? Because once we get into the season, trades, that's a lot harder to do than it is in the offseason. So approaching the season, they're going to need to think their whole game plan. How are they going to approach this? What are they going to do so they can get the bat on the ball and actually produce runs, get hits, win these games? Because if they can't do that, I don't see them anywhere higher than 4. The Athletics, not number 3. I love Matt Chapman, but the Athletics just are not an exciting team. I just cannot see them going far. Obviously, I don't see them as 4 or 5. I see them as a solid 3. I feel like they will not fluctuate. Obviously, like that more importantly because of the 2 teams that are above them. But I feel like this is set in stone. The Athletics are a solid team. They have a solid third baseman. Their rotation is okay. But being in a division like this doesn't really matter when you have Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout with the Angels, and then the Astros, who, like we just said, have had a phenomenal last 4 years. Regardless of all the Astros issues, they're still playing well. This division won't really change too much, especially like what I said about the Athletics. They don't have a full 9 guys who can hit the ball. They have stronger spots in certain parts of the lineup, whether it's the 3 spot or the cleanup spot. Will that help them? Will Chapman be able to do anything for them? I don't know. Obviously, I'm excited to see because I love baseball. But yeah, and I like what you said, Chris, about Mitch Moreland. He's old. He was on the Red Sox. He won in 18 with the Red Sox. What is he going to do now? We'll see. I don't think anything. But at number 2, the Angels. And this one's very controversial. Because I wanted to put them at 1. I just can't. I love Mike Trout. I love Ohtani. Ohtani's phenomenal. I watch him all the time just because I like watching him pitch, and then I like watching him hit it out of the park. He's an exciting guy. I mean, all around, the Angels are a fun team. I've been to their stadium. I loved seeing them. I went to see Ohtani pitch, and he was all that they talk about. It's a lot easier to evaluate a player when you see him in person. Don't get me wrong, it helps when he has a phenomenal game, but seeing him in person and just seeing how he actually plays and presents himself, he is a perfect fit for the team. He complements Mike Trout perfectly, because if they want to put them in the 3 and 4 spot, that is dangerous. That is insane. The only thing is that enough to beat the Astros? We'll have to see, but that is a very dangerous 3 and 4 spot right there, especially since your fourth guy can pitch too. You can throw him into the rotation and into the lineup. That you don't see that often. I mean, that's like a big man who can hit threes all day. I mean, you give Steph Curry shooting ability to Joel Embiid, and you're like, what's happening? You see the same thing with Shohei Ohtani. How is that possible? How can he hit it 450 but also throw it 99 miles an hour? I don't know. I can't wait to see what the Angels do. Moving on to number 1, the Astros. I will talk about them. Although I am not too fond of this team, I do feel that they are in great shape to leave this division in first place. That I don't think they're going to have to worry about any wild card type situation, whereas the Angels will. They're going to have to fight for that spot. The Astros, they're strong. They have the guys. They lost George Springer, but at the end of the day, like you guys said, last year they were still in a good spot. They have the guys they need. I mean, with Carlos Correa and Jose Altuve. I mean, and even Bregman. Like, Bregman is a phenomenal player. I personally would not want Bregman on my team. That's just that's how I feel. But as a player, Bregman is phenomenal. He's been in the conversation for AL MVP alongside Aaron Judge and Jose Ramirez and even Mookie Betts when Mookie Betts was in the American League as a member of the Boston Red Sox. But these Astros, as much as we hate to say it, they are good. They can produce. They have a solid rotation. They did lose Garrett Cole to the Yankees. The Yankees aren't in their division. Why is that? Specifically talking about divisions, the Astros won't struggle too much. They kind of have like a red carpet to walk down to get that first place spot. I don't really see any struggling happening with them. But as I said, I do feel it's going to be an Astros, Angels, Athletics, Mariners, Rangers type of standings for that AL East division.
Yeah, finishing up on mine, I have a similar one to what all you guys had. I'm going to start number 5, Texas Rangers. They are one of the worst teams in baseball right now, and they're probably going to end up trading guys like Joey Gallo at the deadline. Already started out that rebuild by trading Lance Lynn away to the White Sox, traded Mike Minor during the season last year. So I think they're in the process of just starting their rebuild. So that means they'll be in 5th place for years to come. At number 4, the Mariners, they're just starting to have guys come up into their system now. Jared Kelenic, as much as I hate to see it from a Mets perspective, but Julio Rodriguez as well. That'll be a deadly outfield in the future as well. And even for now, they have Kyle Seager in that lineup, and they just re-signed James Paxton. So they're making moves to compete right now. So I think that the Mariners, they can compete, and they can finally get out of last place. They also have Kyle Lewis as well, who had a breakout year last year, won Rookie of the Year. And then number 3, I don't know why you guys are high on the Angels. You never learn. And I'm going to go with the Angels at number 3. There's an offense, which they have. They have a good offense. You guys hit on it. But the one thing you guys just don't talk about, and you guys left it out when we talk about the Angels, is their pitching staff. They never choose to add in pitching whatsoever. They got Andrew Heaney, Dylan Bundy. That's your best 2 guys right now, which if that's the guys you're looking to see in the ace spot and at the second spot, then you have problems in LA. And I get that Mike Trout's pretty good. I get it. He's always been really good, but he's just never been able to lead a team by yourself just because he can't carry a lineup by himself. Even with Anthony Rendon, the Angels just finished towards the bottom of that division. So I think they can definitely benefit from a weak division, but I don't think they'll be higher than number 3 just because I like the A's and Astros just that much more. And the pitching staff, it's always an important part of baseball. Not even their rotation's that good, but you also have a weak bullpen as well. So I think the Angels can definitely struggle just because they choose to neglect it. Trevor Bauer didn't go after him. Garrett Cole didn't go after him. It's an endless cycle in LA. At number 2, I'm going to go with the A's here. I don't like the A's that much. I don't like that Liam Hendricks left. I don't like that they replaced him with Trevor Rosenthal. But I do like that the rotation's at least somewhat good enough to compete. Sean Manaea, Frankie Montas, Jesus Luzardo. I feel like that's a solid group of 3. Then you got AJ Puck, who's one of the better prospects in baseball. So I do like the rotation where it's coming from. They have some power bats in their lineup as well. And the point of Moneyball is they just managed to replace guys with guys you just never hear of. So I do trust the A's to do that once again. I don't think they'll win the division, but I do think that they can be number two. And then number one, I think you have to go with the Astros here. Yes, they're losing George Springer to the Blue Jays, but they are getting Yordan Alvarez back, which isn't getting talked about that much. He won Rookie of the Year in his rookie year. Didn't really play that much last year in the shortened season, but he's come back in spring training. He's looked very good. The DH has. So I think that the outfield will still be just fine without George Springer, just kind of replacing with Yordan in the lineup. And we kind of saw that they weren't really impacted too much by the cheating scandal. They showed that really in the playoffs. So I do trust that that Astros team to make another run and win the division. So that was the American League, and now the National League is probably where things are going to get really interesting, just because 3 out of the 4 of us are fans of teams in this one division we're going to talk about here in the NL East, and this is really up for grabs for any team here, because the Marlins, they were probably everyone's last place pick a year ago. They made the playoffs, so it should be interesting to see what you guys have. So I'm going to start out with Chris. What do you have for your NL East predictions?
Yeah, well, I still have the Marlins in last. I mean, I know that they had a good year in that sham of a season, but I don't believe in that lineup, quite honestly. The rotation is going to be good, especially once Sixto gets called back up. They're going to be good. Then you also have Alcantara, Pablo Lopez is good. Eliezer Hernandez had a really good year last year, so the pitching will be fine. The lineup, to me, I'm not sure. They still haven't had any of those young guys step up in terms of in their lineup. All their lineup is the heart of their lineup is still Starling Marte, Corey Dickerson, Jesus Aguilar, Miguel Rojas. Like they need a guy like Jazz Chisholm, who made the opening day roster at second base, to step up. They need Jorge Alfaro to get better. They need JJ Bleday. If he's going to come up, he needs to be better. Lewin Diaz, another first base prospect for them, he needs to be better. So they need some of their young position players to start stepping up there, like their young pitching prospects have stepped up. So that's why I have them at 5 right now. I mean, they're heading in a good direction. I just think last year was kind of a little bit of a aberration, I guess, in terms of how the record looked. Number 4 is the Nats. The Nats are an interesting team. I think they actually have the lowest floor and pretty high ceiling in this division. I mean, I could see them even coming in last, and I could see them getting a wild card spot. I mean, the argument for them is Victor Robles looked really good in the spring. He could be in line to finally break out into the guy that we all thought he was going to be as a prospect. Juan Soto is one of the best hitters on the planet. Trey Turner, I think, is criminally underrated and is a borderline top 5 shortstop. There's a lot of good shortstops in the game right now, so I don't know if he makes it, but he's criminally underrated. Josh Bell looked really good in spring. Starlin Castro is really good at getting on base. So you could make an argument, and of course Ryan Zimmerman had a monster spring training. So you can make an argument that they now have more than just Soto and Turner in that lineup, and that maybe last year, like the Marlins, was just kind of an aberration. The problem is the rotation. Strasburg can't stay healthy. Scherzer's going to be turning 37 soon. Patrick Corbin lost velo last year and doesn't look like the pitcher he once was. John Lester is 37 and has not been good for the last couple of years. So the rotation, and they don't have a lot of depth there, by the way, either. Like guys to call up in the high minors, because they actually were ranked the worst farm system in baseball. So to me, they don't have a lot of depth on the pitching side, and the way their pitchers get hurt and are aging, that kind of is what pushes me towards 4th. But that the lineup I could see having a bit of a renaissance this year. 3rd, I got the Phils. God, I'd love to put them in the playoffs. You don't know how much I spend the amount of nights I spend thinking about the Phillies making the playoffs and getting to go to some October baseball at the bank. It's insane. It's sad how much I think about that. But God, I don't think this is the year. Some year I'm going to be able to come on here and fully tell you, hey, this team's making a run. It's not this year. they're going to be good. They're going to be better than last year. They're finally going to get above 500 for the first time in like, wow, I think it's been a decade now. That's sad. But they don't have quite as good of a lineup as a team in front of them like the Mets. The Mets, I don't have a hole in their lineup. I know, Logan, I know you're hyped about that, but
Very much.
they don't have a hole in that lineup. I'm going to be completely honest. I mean, 1 through 8, they are really solid. And the rotation to me, I actually don't love the rotation outside of DeGrom, just because Stroman, I don't know what he's going to be like. He hasn't pitched in a while. David Peterson, I think, is going to regress looking at some of his analytical numbers from last year. And that's really it. I mean, Noah Syndergaard and Carlos Carrasco are hurt right now. So to start the year, I don't really like the rotation, but once it gets healthy, they'll be really good. I think they'll get the wild card spot out of the East. And then top of the division, Atlanta. The only question here really in their lineup, I guess they have 2 questions, Austin Riley and Kristen Pache. Pache is going to be, I think, a Gold Glove outfielder. The question is his bat. We'll have to see. His bat may develop a little bit later. And then Austin Riley still hasn't hit like I would have thought for the third base prospect he was, but he's got great power. Other than that, I mean, their lineup's fantastic. I mean, Freeman, Ozuna, d'Arnaud, Swanson, Acuna, incredible. And then the rotation looks awesome. I mean, Max Fried had a huge year. Charlie Morton, we'll have to see. Ian Anderson broke out as a rookie. Drew Smiley was a strikeout artist last year, and then they're going to get Mike Soroka back probably by June. So I think that they win that division, not easily, but probably by like 5 games or so, if I had to guess. But I see them winning for the 4th year in a row.
Yeah, definitely. And I love talking about this division as well. I love all the divisions. If we're being honest, there's so much in each division to appreciate. This one especially, this was my hardest division so far, and I'll tell you why. I'm not putting anybody's feelings first, so don't worry. I didn't put that in consideration. I just thought really hard on how I actually thought it would turn out. I'm gonna put the Marlins at 5. Like we said, similar to the Orioles, they don't really have any big name guys. They've been struggling lately. I mean, yes, they made a good run at the end for the playoffs. I just don't see that happening again. The only guy that I would say is anywhere near a name would be Starling Marte. We haven't heard him really since the Pirates, though. So I don't see anything really happening with those guys. Like I said, even though they made a run to the playoffs, it's a new year. These next 4 teams that I'm about to talk about are pretty good compared to these Marlins. And I'm sorry, I know Carlos is a Miami native, but I just could not put them any higher than 5 on this list. But coming in at number 4 are the Nationals. I love Juan Soto because he's one of those young guys that I just have fun with it. I love him. But like you said about John Lester, like their pitching is old. They're almost 40 years old. Their rotation is okay. I mean, I don't really know what they'll do this year. Soto is arguably could be NL MVP. Nobody's going to deny that. Yes, he's up against a bunch of other guys, but he could be the most valuable player in the National League at that young age. We'll see what they can do. I have nothing against the Nationals. They don't affect the Red Sox, so I hope that I wish the best for them, and I want to see if Soto can succeed. I love seeing those young guys succeed, so hopefully he does well for them. I mean, it was fun watching them a couple years back when they went 19 games in a row winning just so they can make the playoffs and eventually win the World Series. That's exciting. They don't have the same team they had. They didn't even have Bryce Harper then, so now that they don't have a guy like him, it's going to be tough for them. But moving on to number 3, Logan, I'm sorry that it's at 3, but I'm going to put the Mets. This is a lot different than Chris's. I do have the Mets at 3. It's a little similar as we get to the top, but number 3 are the Mets, and I love Lindor. I think he's great. I love the Big Apple. I'm a New York native myself, and this is where it gets tough. DeGrom is phenomenal. Like Chris said, he is an artist on the corners. He's an artist, just pitching in general. He knows where to put the ball. He knows how to throw it. I mean, he's he won the Cy Young. He's arguably one of the best pitchers in baseball. If you look at the rankings on ESPN, he's like the 3rd best player in baseball, and he's a pitcher. That just says enough. They have Noah Syndergaard. I mean, Lindor, yes, he will do a lot. He's a great shortstop. He, like Billy Beano, he said, he can get on base. He knows what he's doing. He's kind of a veteran, if you will. I mean, he's been in the league for a long time. He is on his 2nd team. There's not really much that should be nervous about. He doesn't really have to adjust because he's kind of in his career where like unlike Benintendi, he can come back or he can get even better than he already was. And I like what I'm about to say because Carlos says this to me a lot. But a bigger market allows for a player to grow because he gets those resources or he gets those fans and people can watch him, and more and more people will get to know his name. That'll just get him a big contract. So good for Lindor, good for the Mets. I think they'll do well. I'm excited to see what they do. Number 2, as tough as this is, the Phillies. I'm going to put the Phillies at 2. Chris, I know that'll make you smile a little bit just because you had them lower. I do feel like the Phillies will do something this year. I have some faith in them. I know we've seen them struggle a lot when it gets closer to the playoffs. They're a great team. Getting to the playoffs is the questionable spot for them. They have Bryce Harper. I see all around campus people wearing Bryce Harper shirts all the time. So, you can't forget that they have Bryce Harper, there it is. The big guy, big Grand Slam guy, big home run guy in general. They have Rhys Hoskins and, JT Realmuto. I apologize if I said that wrong, but he came back. They fought for him. They were begging to get him back. And what did he do? He signed with the Phillies. He could have gone. He's one of the best catchers in baseball. Why didn't he go to the Yankees? He must have been on the Phillies for a reason. That's like Mike Trout deciding to stay with the Angels. Yes, the Angels are struggling, but there must be a reason. He must have faith in the team. He must believe they're going to do well, especially having a guy like Bryce Harper. Look, you look right to the right out in the outfield, and Bryce Harper's standing there, a guy like 6'3", over 200 pounds, jacks him every single time he's up there. He's insane. They'll be fine. I do like their rotation. I will say I like Aaron Nola. I like Matt Moore. I like what they have. Didi Gregorius at shortstop. That's just, the Phillies are stacked. I don't know. I don't know how you could put them any lower than 2. That's just a personal opinion. I feel like this is their year, 2021, where they're gonna make a run in the playoffs. As a Red Sox fan, I hate saying that. I hate giving credit to the Sixers and the Phillies because they're Philadelphia teams. But analyzing these teams, I do feel the Phillies will have the chance to make a run. Topping it off at number 1. My second favorite team, the Atlanta Braves. I love talking about these guys. Ronald Acuna Jr., my second favorite player. We'll talk about my first favorite player later, but I love Acuna. I'm so glad they got Ozuna back. Watching the Braves last year against the Dodgers and the Padres was phenomenal. I believe, no, the Dodgers, when they played the Dodgers, it was a phenomenal series. Ozuna was going off. Anderson was pitching well. He pitched Game 7. Unfortunately, they did not get the win, but for a rookie coming in to pitch in NLCS Game 7, that gives you experience. The coach of the Braves, I'm missing his name right now, but he even made the statement, and I quote, Ian Anderson is far more advanced considering how much experience he has. So just the coach saying that they have a pitcher at 21, 22 years old who has more experience or has a better skill set than the experience that he has is insane. So he's only been in the league for a few years. He's already at a level, I don't want to say Jacob deGrom, but he's already at a Masahiro Tanaka type level almost, or when Tanaka was first getting into the league. A strong pitcher, a dominant pitcher. He comes out hot. He's not scared. You saw his first appearance back last season around August 20th. Was he scared? No. He took Garrett Cole to a 1-hit game. Only hit, that was Luke Voigt in the 6th inning or whatever before he got taken out. That's a phenomenal start. Their rotation is fine. I'm not worried about their rotation. This is an exciting team to watch. I mean, not to mention, the Braves just keep getting better. Freddie Freeman, we know he just won the NL MVP. They are phenomenal. I use that word a lot, but to describe the Braves, they got it going on. I'm just excited to watch. I'm excited to be there to watch it. Austin Riley even is a great guy. He's probably on the lower end of their team, but I just named 5 solid guys. I mean, 5 out of 9 guys that can hit the ball and can hit it far, and not to mention a solid rotation. These Atlanta Braves, I will have this team on my TV every day, probably for the next 3 months, just watching them, as well as the Red Sox. But I cannot wait to watch the Braves and see what they do, especially with a young guy like Ian Anderson and Ronald Acuna Jr., as well as the signings they just made. So with that being said, this division will definitely have my eyes glued to the TV for this one.
Well, I mean, before I start, me and Chris are coming off an analysis of this division or of all these divisions and the NL in general. But definitely this has to be probably the most competitive division in probably Major League Baseball, just due to the fact that all 5 of the teams could possibly compete for a playoff spot if they really tried. I mean, but now getting into the rankings, I'm hurt. You guys are putting my Miami Marlins at 5, and that's disappointing, but I'll let it slide. Can't always agree with your hot takes, but at 5, I'm gonna go with the Nationals. listen, this team won the World Series a couple years ago, and Juan Soto is a great young player, no doubt. His OPS plus last year was a 212. That was the highest since 2004, Mark McGuire. And, he's a great guy. Listen, this guy, like Brendan was saying, he could be possibly NL MVP, no doubt about that. But when I think of the Nationals, and this is a guy who Juan Soto is practically leading his team. Like, he's the only guy there that I really think is making a name for himself, just based on the fact that, look, Juan Soto, he walks so much just due to the fact that pitchers aren't scared to face the batters behind him. So when a guy, you say a guy like, oh yeah, Juan Soto is great. He walks so much, he gets on base. Yeah, that's great and all. But are there RBIs coming in? Is he scoring? Can the guys behind him hit the ball? And the answer is no. So that's why I don't think the Nationals are really, we saw that they got rid of Bryce Harper, and then they won the World Series that year. And that's great and all. But now they're steadily declining. And I really think if Juan Soto can have an MVP year out of him, and I still don't think they'll be fourth place in the division. And then now moving on to number 4, it pains me that they're so low, but the Miami Marlins. I just think that this team, like Chris was saying, I don't like the roster. A lot of young guys. I will say that they're really banking on the pitching of Sandy Alcantara and Sixto Sanchez. Definitely those young guys, 2 of the best young pitchers in the league, in my opinion. But definitely the Marlins have some work to do in the lineup. They got a lot of veteran guys, and it's a mix between veteran presences and then really young prospects. So if they can really find that happy medium, I think they'll be fine at I'm going to put them at 4, though, because we saw that they made the playoffs last year for the first time since 2003. So 17 years. But this was a 60-game season. And is it a fluke? Who knows? But I think that definitely the Marlins at 4. I think they're on their way to a bright future, but definitely not this year or in the next couple of years. And then at 3, I got the Phillies, and not to kind of disturb the fans, but I just got the Phillies jersey on, the Bryce Harper, just for the drip. I like to look good, and Bryce Harper is one of my favorite players in the league. But this team is definitely, my issue with the Phillies has to be the pitching. Arguably, not even arguably, the worst pitching last year, and probably statistically ever that we've seen in a bullpen. I mean, just horrid pitching. Like, you see just absolute, the opponents taking them a yard every time. Like, no, it was horrible. But the silver lining that I would have to see is just Bryce Harper, how he can play. This is a guy who is supposed to be in top 1, top 2, competing with Mike Trout for best player in the league, and he's slowly declining. I mean, I probably see him top 10, maybe a little bit a dip of that, if that is. But definitely Bryce Harper, I really want to see how he's going to progress, and if he can really bring back the Phillies to their stardom and their World Series years and maybe compete for a playoff spot. I don't think it will be this year. We'll have to see what they do next year, but definitely they need to go out. They need to get a couple pitchers because that bullpen is looking like a dumpster fire right now. And then moving on, number 2, I got the New York Mets, and I'm going to talk about in the NL Central, but I don't think the Mets are going to make the playoffs. And here's why. We saw that they got Frankie Lindor and Carlos Carrasco, great acquisitions. And then they also get a guy like Kevin Pillar to really bolster that roster in the outfield. But my issue here is that it's the pitching, right? Like, I don't have a problem with the lineup because their lineup is deep, right? If they were playing at a park like a Coors Field where the outfields are short and, guys can hit 20, 30 home runs, this lineup is capable of that. But the issue is the pitching. Can they stay healthy? Right now, we see that DeGrom is rehabbing from a Tommy John surgery. And then they also have injury-prone guys like Carlos Carrasco and Marcus Stroman. So statistically, Mets pitchers that have been good, it leads to Mets wins, and Mets wins translates to postseason success. If they can pitch good, they're in good hands, but I just don't see it happening. I think they'll need 1 year to really mesh and get that bullpen and the rotation moving. So that's why I think they'll be in second place in this division, but I don't think they'll make the playoffs. And then lastly, rounding it out, the Atlanta Braves, Freddie Freeman, the MVP of the NL. And then, of course, Marcelo Zuna, who almost had the Triple Crown last year, a great hitter and a great bag runner. And then, of course, Ronald Acuna Jr., need I say anything else? But I think this team is definitely in the great hands to win the division. They're going to get a guy back in Mike Soroka to really help that bullpen. They'll get him back in like mid-season, so probably around June, like Chris was saying. So definitely this team is the favorites to win the division, and I really see no issues with this team.
Yeah, so I actually agree with Carlos here. I think that the arguments for the Nationals at 5, I think it's really valid here just because they have 3 reliable starters. The Nationals do, but after that, it's really questionable. I don't believe in John Lester. He's basically a fossil at this point. I don't believe in Joe Ross as well at number 5. And looking at the lineup, it's really boom or bust. You have Juan Soto, Trey Turner, guys that I really trust. But after that, Josh Bell, Kyle Schwarber, they're both brought in. And there are guys who can hit 40 home runs in a season if they want to, but that can also strike out 200 plus times, hit 200 average, and really just cost this team a lot of wins. So the Nationals, it's an older lineup. It's really not a deep lineup as well. So I don't like them to finish any higher than 5 really. And it's sad just because the Nationals are really going to start celebrating that World Series championship 2 years ago, since they have fans and they're going to actually celebrate that championship for opening day, but it's just a shame that in 2 quick years, this Nationals team's really starting to fall apart. Number 4, I'm going to go with the Marlins here. They did make the playoffs last year, but I do think in a full season with these young guys, I don't really have too high expectations for this Marlins team. It's still a really young roster, just in terms of really all aspects of the game with the pitching and the hitting. So I don't really think the Marlins will finish higher than the top 3 teams. I do like the Phillies at number 3. And congratulations, Chris. They're figuring out how to make a bullpen. They got Archie Bradley. They got Jose Alvarado. Really starting to make that bullpen, which was one of the worst in all of baseball history. But there's still work that has to be done there. And especially compared to the other 2 teams, I think the Phillies, really the rotation could use some work there. They have Nola and Wheeler, which are 2 guys that I really like. But after that, it's just a lot of question marks for me. And really, the lineup is getting a lot better. I do like that they brought back JT and they brought back Didi Gregorius. So I think the lineup will be fine. And I think the Phillies are taking the right steps to competing in the future. But I think when you compare it to the Mets and the Braves, they're just not quite there yet. I'm going to go with the Mets at 2. I'm not going to be a homer. I'm not going to be a homer and pick them to be number 1. I think the rotation's definitely got some question marks there, especially with Carrasco and Syndergaard being hurt. I mean, I like Joey Lucchesi at number 5 in the rotation for now. But we'll see how these new acquisitions play out. I mean, Taijuan Walker being one of them, and he's going to be the number 2 guy, and then Marcus Stroman coming off a season where he opted out. So there's a lot of question marks after DeGrom in that Mets rotation. And then the Braves at number 1, they brought back everyone they had to bring back. Marcelo Zuna being the big one, had a MVP caliber season on the bat, but he's not really the best in the field. And with there being no DH, it doesn't really help him out. But they added into the rotation by getting guys like Charlie Morton, who I think will really help. He had a solid year in Tampa Bay. He's had a solid tenure in Tampa Bay. So I do like the Braves to finish at number 1. And then we got 2 more divisions here, the NL Central and the NL West. Going to try and speed these up a little bit just because we do know kind of where all these teams lie. So I'm going to start out with Chris. What do you like for the NL Central?
Yeah, this division isn't good, like, at all. It's just extremely mediocre. So clearly Pirates in the last. Key Brian Hayes will be fun to watch. In fact, I think he might be my front runner for Rookie of the Year this year. We looked great to end the year last year, still eligible, and had a great spring training. Other than that, everything else, they're going to sell everything at the deadline, if it even has value at that point. 4th place, I got the Reds. They got a lot of guys that need to bounce back: Moustakas, Suarez, Castellanos, Joey Votto even. So I think that's kind of the biggest question mark for me is, do they bounce back or do they not? Other than that, the rotation's good, but I don't know. They just kind of seem like an okay team to me. The problem last year is nobody got on base. You know, they solely relied on the long ball, and you can't win that way. Then going to 3rd, I got Milwaukee. Milwaukee to me, again, Yelich has to have a bounce back year. He had a bad year. Keston Hiura is very good. I think he's not the best defensive player, but is a good bat. Outside of that, I don't know. I mean, Jackie Bradley Jr. He has some pop, but he's not gonna. Yeah, I don't think he's gonna hit for that high of an average. Although he's probably outside of Yelich and Keston Hiura, he's probably the third best hitter in that lineup. But again, the top two in that rotation, Woodruff and Corbin Burns, are coming off big years. Outside of that, the pitching isn't that great. The bullpen has two elite guys at the top in Devin Williams and Josh Hader. Hot take: Josh Hader is a Padre by the deadline. I think Preller that's going to be the big trade at the deadline. Preller is going to sell the rest of the farm for his closer there. And then going to second here, I got the Cubs. I think, again, they got a lot of guys in their walk year. I mean, so really for these guys like Baez, Contreras, who else? Anthony Rizzo, who, by the way, the Cubs just said that they feel confident in an extension with him, but nothing is official yet. Look, these guys got to hit this year. They got to play well to get the extension that they want going forward because they're in their prime right now. This is the biggest contract they'll ever get, assuming they don't just take a one-year contract. So they have to bounce back. I think they will bounce back. Kyle Hendricks and Zach Davies are two good rotation pieces. I think Zach Davies is actually really underrated. He always puts up good numbers despite not having like elite stuff. The rest of that rotation is awful. Trevor Williams isn't good. Jake Arrieta might have been the worst Cy Young winner of all time. And Adbert Alzolay is their fifth starter prospect, who is kind of an unknown, came up and started a few games for them last year. That bullpen also isn't good. So like the lineup to bounce back, don't like the pitching. And then at number one, I got the Cardinals. The Cardinals, I actually think the lineup isn't as good as the Cubs. Arenado and Goldschmidt are two really good corner pieces. Dylan Carlson could also be a Rookie of the Year contender out in center field. The rest of that lineup isn't that good. Yadier Molina is good defensively still, but at the plate, he's so-so. Other than that, the lineup is okay. The bench isn't that great. But Jack Flaherty's really good. Adam Wainwright is still good, even though he's going to be almost 40. And that bullpen is still good. So I actually think it'll be close between the Cubs and Cardinals. I think the Cards pull it out by like 2 games or so there.
Yeah, this is definitely the worst division in the National League. Just bad teams. I mean, really the only favorite to win the division here is the Cardinals, just based on the fact that they signed Nolan Arenado. We'll get to that in a little bit, but I'll start at the bottom here. I'm not even gonna waste my time here. 5 Pirates, 4 Reds. Need I say anything about these teams? Just bad overall. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Third place, I have the Cubs. You know, they won the division last year. That's great and all, but they lost Yu Darvish and they were a first round exit to the Marlins. So definitely, I didn't like how they ended the season. I honestly thought they were going to sweep the Marlins, maybe make it into a couple rounds into the postseason, but that was not the case. So I don't like where it's going right now, especially after you lose a huge piece in Yu Darvish. That's definitely going to affect your pitching. So we'll see how that translates at the end of the season, but that's why I have them at 3. And then at 2, another big surprise here, a shocker. I got the Milwaukee Brewers, and I have them making the wild card. Now, we saw the atrocious season that they had last year. I mean, just all around bad by not only the whole team, and then obviously their star player, their former MVP, Christian Yelich. Just bad year overall. But I think that they're going to step up. You know, a 60-game season, whatever. Some people think it really didn't count or whatever. Now we'll see how that translates to when they're playing 100 more games. But I think the silver lining that we really have to see with this Brewers team is that their core pitching, so really some of their core starters and their core closers, they had a 2.59 ERA. So that's definitely something to be looking out for, you know, the elite pitching, and how that's going to translate when they make it to the postseason in my prediction. But I think that Yelich, you know, he's going to come back and have a great year, because there's no way that this former MVP and a guy who has a ton of talent, I don't think he has 2 bad years in a row. So definitely, and they were thrown metaphorical curveballs last year with COVID and everything that happened. So I think they'll bounce back and they'll definitely make it as a wild card. And then rounding out the division, obviously we have the Cardinals when they signed Nolan Arenado. That gave them a huge jump to win the division. I think if they didn't get him, it would probably be a close race between the Cubs and the Brewers. But now that they bolster that infield with, on the other corner at first base, Paul Goldschmidt, and then the ageless wonder behind home plate at the 2, Yadi Molina. So definitely, I think that infield is looking real nice. And do I think that the Cardinals are a Nolan Arenado piece away from making the World Series or getting deep, maybe the NLCS? Absolutely not. But I think they're on their way to a couple of years of really, I think it's going to be close. I think they're going to they'll make it past the first round, maybe make it to the NLCS. I don't know. I think it's going to be tough to judge now, but definitely this team's pretty good, looking real good now. So we'll see how that pans out.
So I just wanted to start off by saying I don't think there should be a 5th team in this division. I think instead of having a 5, we should just say our top 4. I'm sorry to any Pittsburgh Pirate fans, but they are just not going to make anything happen. Other than Gregory Polanco, who they've had, he's in his 8th season. They just have not been doing anything lately. They're one of those teams where we kind of just have accepted their fate. They're going to be at the bottom of the division. They're not going to make it far. That's just how it is for the Pirates. Hopefully they can rebuild in the future. If they do, then they'll be in the discussion. But for right now, they're just not making anything happen. Coming in number 4, the Reds. I liked number 22, Derek Dietrich, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, when he was still on the team. He was a great guy when he was on there. Now, what can the Reds do? They don't have enough to compete with the Brewers, the Cubs, and the Cardinals, only because they don't have any strong players like they had. They don't come out and attack. They don't hit the ball as well as the other 3 teams. Like I said, in these divisions, it's tough because if you have 3 great teams, it's already hard enough to compete with them as is. It just makes it that much harder to even contend as a 3rd place spot or hopefully that wild card spot if they could snag it. I don't think it's very likely. Like I said, their team is struggling. Their rotation is okay. They have Sonny Gray. But other than that, there aren't really any names that, kind of stand out to me. I like Joey Votto, don't get me wrong, but I like the word that Logan used. He's a fossil. He's been around forever. He's been around. He might as well have been around when Nolan Ryan was playing. Like, he has been there. He might as well have been at first base for Nolan Ryan. I mean, he is an older player. He's a veteran. He's still a big guy. He still can hit the ball. But other than that, I don't see much potential for them this year. Coming in at number 3 are the Cubs. I know that sounds a little low. I only say the Cubs because I like what I see with the Brewers and the Cardinals. The Cubs at 3 are fair to me because, like the other divisions, I don't think this one can be changed. I like Anthony Rizzo, and I like how they want to sign him again. If they do that, I feel like that would be a great move. It's a smart move. Contreras, phenomenal at catching, a lot better than Miguel Montero with that whole fiasco. But Contreras at catcher is awesome. Javier Baez, love that guy. We share the same birthday, December 1st. So happy birthday to him when that comes around. But I like their infield. I do like the infield. I think it's great. I like what they did back in 15, 16, around that time when they came back from a 3-1 deficit to the Indians. That was fun to watch. They had the same players. They have Chris Bryant. They got Jock Peterson. He's on the team now. He just came from the Dodgers, who won the World Series. That's another pickup. That's awesome. You love to see that. Cubs, they're in a good spot. I'll be honest, they could move up. They could move down. I don't know. If they were to do one, I feel it could be move up. But, going into the season, we'll just have to see what happens. Number 2, the Brewers. This one's tough because I had to put the other team at number 1 for reasons that I will explain. But the Brewers, I like what they've been able to do, especially with Yelich and everybody else on their team. But last year was just not good for them. They did not show themselves as the team they could be. 2 years ago, we were watching Christian Yelich make commercials with Cody Bellinger because they were in the home run race to see who the first one is to have the most by the end of the season or to reach 45, whatever it may be. Who is Christian Yelich now? Did we see him do that last year? No. I understand it was a shortened season. That's totally fine. Same thing happened with Benintendi and other players like that. They struggled. A lot of the Red Sox struggled. A lot of the other teams struggled as well. It's not just them, but Yelich did not really impress me last year, and I was not really impressed by what he had produced. So I can't really put the Brewers anywhere higher than 2. I do think they're a strong team. I do like who they have. Obviously, I like their center fielder, the man, JBJ. I love seeing that. But if I'm being honest now that he's not on the Red Sox, is JBJ a good fit for the Brewers? Yes, I feel like he complements Yelich a lot. But Jackie Bradley Jr. was never that guy who you're like, I want him up. I want to see him bat. When he did, it was kind of a sense of relief because you knew something would happen. But he was never that guy that you wanted up there hitting, in the one spot. In the outfield, totally different story. Him and Yelich will stop anything that comes from the middle and the right side no matter what. They'll stop that. We know that. Like I said about the Benintendi earlier, Jackie Bradley Jr. is probably arguably better than Benintendi on defense. He is a defensive machine. We've seen him catch Aaron Judge home runs 20 feet above him, and we've seen him slide 20 feet out. He's awesome. That's a great pickup for the Brewers. And if that doesn't help them, I don't know what will. That is definitely going to help them more than it would hurt them because he's just that great of a defender, and defense wins championships. What more can I say? Coming in at number 1, the Cardinals. I know Carlos is going to like this because he told me the other day about a segment. He loves Arenado. I love Arenado. I'm glad they could make this happen. Arenado's honestly one of my favorite players behind Tatis and Acuna, just because of his game. The ball's hit anywhere. He gets the ball. He throws it on one knee, two knees, however, whatever. He makes the play. He gets the out. He is a stand-up guy. He's great at player on and off the field. He can get the job done. I like the rest of the Cardinals team. I don't want to say that Arenado's their best player because they do still have guys like Carlos was saying, like Yadi Molina, Jack Flaherty at pitching. Their rotation is not bad. Obviously, they haven't been as good as the Red Sox like we saw in 2013, but being a team from the National League, they definitely will make a run in this division to play well. I'm very confident in saying that, above all, that the Cardinals will be securing a top spot in this division by the time we get to the playoffs.
Yeah, so to finish it off that, I'm going to skip number 5 like the rest of you guys. That's clearly the Pirates. But number 4 is where we really start to defer here. I'm going with the Cubs. And I'm gonna go with the same reasoning why I went with the Indians here. I think that by the trade deadline, Chris kind of mentioned it, that a lot of these guys are going to be free agents after the year. I think the Cubs are going to be sellers of the deadline. They'll be huge sellers of the deadline. They have Contreras, Chris Bryant, Javier Baez, Kyle Hendricks, guys that they can get a lot of value off of right now. And there's no better time than now for the Cubs to try and sell. And we've seen the Cubs, they've already started that rebuilding process. So I think we'll start to see more of those guys get traded by this trade deadline. And then at number 3, I'm going to go with the Reds. I think that Cincinnati, they're still in a good spot to compete right now. I think they still have a couple good guys in that rotation in Luis Castillo and Sonny Gray. So if they do decide to compete, they'll still be fine. And they have a lot of guys on the offensive side as well. Mike Moustakas, Nick Castellanos, both really good guys. Eugenio Suarez provides a good bat at third base. So I think that the Reds, they can still compete as well. I mean, they could definitely rebuild too, but I think that this team is still built pretty good if they decide to make one last run at it, even though they lost Trevor Bauer. At number 2, I'm going to go with the Brewers, kind of like you guys. I do like the Colton Wong signing at second base, as well as the Jackie Bradley Jr. signing. So I think that they did add a lot of offensive depth. And I'm gonna kind of go off what Brandon said. I think that Christian Yelich, he had a really bad season to the point where he was a liability come playoff time. And we'll see. Maybe it was a shortened season, maybe that's just him declining. But that we'll just see when the full season starts tomorrow. We'll see what happens with Yelich. But I can't put them higher than the Cardinals just because number 1, the Cardinals, they have Nolan Arenado, who's going to add to that offensive depth. I think that he's one of the better third basemen, one of the better players in the MLB today. And what he brings defensively as well. It's one of the best gloves we've seen in a while at third base. So even if he doesn't bring that same offensive firepower, he's always going to have that glove. And I mean, this Cardinals team, it lacks flash, but they still have a lot of pieces. Jack Flaherty is going to be coming back healthier than ever, I think, as well. He can be a sneaky Cy Young pick. So I think the Cardinals, they will come out on top in the NL Central like you guys. And then looking at the NL West, probably might be the easiest division to pick, at least in my mind. I don't know what you guys are thinking over there, but there's definitely 3 teams that you can cross off the list, and it just depends on what order you want. But Brandon, what are you looking at here with the NL West?
I've been waiting for this since we started. This is my favorite division. I know I've said that about all of them, but this, just because of Fernando Tatis Jr., this division I will talk about for hours. I'm going to have to put the Diamondbacks at 5 just because same thing with the other teams that we put at 5. We haven't seen much from them. We haven't seen them do just about anything in these past years. I don't really know who they have that's decent other than Madison Bumgarner and Marte. Will we see them get better? Probably not this year, just because, like we said, they didn't really do much in the offseason. They didn't make any trades. They didn't pick up a Francisco Lindor. They didn't pick up a Mookie Betts. They didn't do much. So with that being said, how are they going to move from a 5 spot to go higher? They won't. unless they do something obviously before the trade deadline. We don't have to worry about that till July. It doesn't look like they have much hope. Don't get me wrong, they could always pull off a Cinderella story like the Nationals did and turn it around halfway through the season, but the Nationals had a solid team. And I just can't say that these Diamondbacks for this 2021 season are a solid team. Coming in at number 4, I'm going to say the Rockies. I'm a big Charlie Blackmon fan. I love him. I love his beard and the way he presents himself. He's a solid guy, but that's just not enough. The Rockies, after losing Nolan Arenado, after giving up the best third baseman in baseball, where do you go from there? Same thing that the Red Sox did. Why were the Red Sox struggling? Because they gave up Betts, because they gave up their outfield, and that's why it's going to be tough for them. Why did the Marlins decline? Because they lost Stanton, they lost Yelich. When you lose a big guy like that, at least the season after, you're going to feel a little uneasy. There's going to be some struggling, and the chemistry, although it may be fine, there's still going to be that missing piece of Arenado, of JBJ, whoever it may be, Christian Yelich from the Marlins. That's going to affect them a lot as we approach this season. But the Giants, I like the Giants. I feel like they're a solid team. They kind of stay consistent. They don't really go too high. They don't really go too low. Yastrzemski, though, I like him a lot. Obviously, one of his relatives played for the Red Sox, so he's fun to watch. Buster Posey, obviously a great guy. He's been at catcher, but let's use the word fossil again. Well, he's old now. He's been around forever. I remember being 10 years old and going to a Red Sox game and against the Giants or whoever it may be. And then there's Buster Posey. And, now that I'm 18, 8 years later, he's still in the league. It's like, how is this guy still playing? He's still phenomenal. He's just not in the MVP type of discussion anymore. You guys can agree that 4 or 5 years ago, he was the top catcher. He was arguably the best catcher in baseball. We know that. Then we got more guys coming in that like Real Lamento. They've been making an impact. Even Contreras, Salvador Perez, those type of guys, those are the guys who you really want. Whereas Posey, he'll get the job done. He'll catch the ball. He'll throw it back to the pitcher, but he's not going to do too much at this old age or stand out in any crazy way. Moving on to number 2, the San Diego Padres, my guys. I love this team. I can't put them out at 1 as much as I wish I could. We're all going to have the same team at 1, I would assume. So it's kind of hard to move that around. But Fernando Tatis Jr., I don't care what you say about him. He is, I want to say, the second best player in baseball. I won't say the first because I did say Mookie Betts is, and I stand by that. Fernando Tatis Jr., although he's sitting at 21, 22 years old, is the second best player in baseball. I have a jersey of his coming on the way. I love watching him. I love his gameplay. He is fun to watch. He reminds me of Acuna, like I said earlier. His defense, his offense, all around. He had a phenomenal season last year, batting over 300. They got Yu Darvish at pitching now, so their rotation isn't bad. Manny Machado at third base. Yes, we all have our opinions on Machado and the type of player he is, but hey, he gets the ball to first base. He throws it over in plenty of time. He hits the ball. I hate using the Billy Bean analogy, but he gets on base. He's the type of guy you want. And I mean, him and Tatis in the infield is just, it's insane. There's no way to stop that. But the only team that can stop that, I love using this term, the LA boys, the LA Dodgers. Let's talk about them. No notes for the Dodgers because we know how they play. Mookie Betts, Cody Bellinger. Yeah, they lost Jock Peterson, but they are a stand-up team. They won the World Series. Corey Seager, he was the MVP. Would we say he's the best player? Absolutely not. But you know what we saw last year? Every player contributing. Every single player did what they need to do to allow for the Dodgers to be, named World Series champions. They were playing a great Rays team. They were playing a Randy Arozarena's team who, after he came off a phenomenal ALCS that last season. So these Dodgers, after beating a team like that, coming in, they have the confidence. I mean, Trevor Bauer, it goes without saying, just that pickup is just like, come on. It's another, once again, rich getting richer type of situation. It's another super team. Like I said before, they could be the Monstars as well, just like the Nets in basketball. They have all the guys. Guys, this is a team who has that 1 through 9 lineup. They don't have a poor guy in the lineup. I felt confident saying that about the Red Sox in 2018 when they won the World Series. I hate saying it now because the Dodgers are the ones they beat, but the Dodgers have that super team. They have that 1 through 9. They have the rotation. I got nothing else to say except for, let's hope these LA boys deliver on their end and let's see how they do. Maybe they'll make another run back into the playoffs. I would not be surprised if they win this division. This is their division to own. Let's see what they can do, but let's go boys in blue.
Yeah, I think, I'm actually going to have to disagree with you on the number 5 team. I think it's the Rockies. and probably the worst trade in baseball, or one of the worst trades in baseball history. The Nolan Arenado trade, where they're paying the Cardinals $50 million for Nolan Arenado to come back to Coors Field and hit home runs against them. That trade's awful. I mean, I don't know who in the front. I mean, by the way, the quotes out of that front office, which are like, I think it was the GM was the guy. It was either the GM or the owner was like, yeah, I thought about this trade like 30 times since it's been done, and all 30 times I thought in my head it didn't make sense. And it's like, okay, well then why would you do it if you said that? But they didn't get a top 100 prospect back. It just didn't make any sense at all. I mean, quite honestly. So now they're probably going to look to trade Story and possibly even Blackman at the deadline, I would assume, because I don't know why Story would want to stay out there. But that team isn't going anywhere to me. And then number 4, you got to go with the Diamondbacks here. I kind of agree with you. That team's just kind of mediocre, although I like the farm system a lot. They've kind of replenished that farm system without tanking, but the bullpen is not that good. The rotation's okay, and the lineup is okay. I mean, overall, they're a mediocre team. I think they'll probably win like 75 games or so, somewhere around there. I think is where they kind of fit in. Then I got the Giants. The Giants might be close to 500. They're again another one of those teams that have kind of replenished the farm system without absolutely tanking. They got some guys that I think are going to be good trade pieces at the deadline. You look at that lineup; they're all really over 30, except for Mauricio Dubon. So to me, they shouldn't be afraid to trade a guy like Mike Yastrzemski. I know he kind of burst onto the scene only 2 years ago, but again, he was kind of like a minor league lifer before this in the Orioles system before he broke out. So he's 30 now. So I think he's not going to be around on that next big Giants team. So I think they'll try and get something from him. Trade Kevin Gausman at the deadline, maybe Johnny Cueto if he's going, or like Tommy La Stella. So they got a lot of guys that I think could be decent trade chips, maybe like Brandon Belt as well. And then going to the second place team, who I also have in the wild card, I got to go with the San Diego Padres, last year known as the Slam Diego Padres. They got a ton of power, that team. I'm just excited to see Tatis in a full season. I still think in my mind he's a top 5 player in the game. I know he hasn't played really like that full season yet, so this will be a big season towards determining that. But I also like the rotation that they really bolstered with Darvish. Darvish was kind of a question mark before he kind of broke out with the Cubs a couple of years ago. I thought that contract was a bust, but then he turned it around. Of course, now they got Musgrove, and then Mackenzie Gore, the top pitching prospect in all of baseball, might come up this year as well. And they also have Dinelson Lamet, who is an absolute strikeout machine. I think he's really underrated. He's had some elbow problems, though, so that'll be a guy to watch. And Mike Clevenger, who's undergoing Tommy John surgery, out for the year. So next year they'll have even more pitching depth, but right now I have them in second. And the Dodgers, I don't really know how much more I can say about them. I mean, they're just a machine. They don't even need to have high draft picks to develop guys. They sign all these international prospects that pan out well. And then they rescue guys' careers like Max Muncy, who seemingly came out of nowhere. So they're incredible. And then, oh, by the way, they also got Trevor Bauer, who was the Cy Young winner last year. So, yeah, I mean, they're winning the division. They're probably winning the World Series. So,
Yeah, I'll keep it short here because, I mean, what else do I have to say? This is the Dodgers division to lose and the Dodgers league to lose. Obviously, they're going to repeat in my mind as World Series champs. But at number 5, I got to agree with Chris. I'm going to go with the Rockies here just because, and kind of going off what Brendan said, you lose the best third baseman in the league, and you get in return practically close to nothing. I mean, you don't even get back a top 100 prospect. Are you kidding me? Like, there goes your future. I mean, you guys are going to be what? Are you tanking? Like, are you trying to show us that you just don't care about your franchise? So I really don't understand the move. I mean, whatever, you can get rid of your star guy, but let's get something in return that's going to help us not look as bad. I don't agree with the trade at all. Congrats to Nolan Arenado for getting out of that hole. But yeah, Rockies, I'm sorry. Like, what are you guys trying to do there? And then on number 4, the Diamondbacks, and at 3, the Giants. Going off what Chris said, basically there are 2 teams that got some top prospects, or just some couple guys in their farm system that instead of trying to tank. So definitely the future is, I want to say the future is bright for them, but they are kind of heading in the right direction. Not really trying to embrace the tank and just completely blowing up the process and rebuilding, but definitely a team that, or 2 teams that can definitely, get those young guys and possibly see if what's going to happen in the future. And then at 2, I have the San Diego Padres, and I have them making a wild card. Look, this is a team that slammed Diego Padres. I mean, they're an electric team. Fernando Tatis Jr., arguably a top 5 player in the league, and he's definitely got the most swagger right now. I mean, he doesn't care about the unwritten rules of baseball. He's gonna take you yard on a 3-0 pitch, and that's what we love. Fans love to see that. I mean, we don't want to see a guy who, oh yeah, I'll just take the walk. No, we want to see grand slams. We want to see homers. We want to see out of the parks. So definitely, I love Tatis. I love the electricity that he brings to not only his team and the city, but the whole league in general. And then, of course, you go out and you get Yu Darvish and Blake Snell in free agency, and that's really going to help your pitching core. So definitely, I have them as a 2 seed and as a wild card seed, but this team is definitely going to make noise, and they could possibly end up in a matchup with the number 1 seed in this division in the NLCS, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Need I say anything about them? They're the best team in baseball. They have the best player, in my opinion, Mookie Betts. And then they go and they get Trevor Bauer, and they add him to a rotation who doesn't even need him. So, I mean, we even see guys like David Price who are fighting for that last spot on the starting rotation. And he could arguably be a first, second, maybe a third pitcher on any other team. So definitely it's going to be interesting to see what the Dodgers do with their pitching, but I think they're going to run away with it, and they're just going to be steamrolling opponents in the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm not going to really add much to that because I had the exact same rankings. I mean, Rockies just gave away Nolan Arenado for nothing at 5. Diamondbacks and Giants kind of very similar. Diamondbacks at 4. They could definitely trade a guy like Madison Bumgarner or Ketel Marte at the deadline. The Giants, they were very competitive last year, despite not having a lot of big pieces, but now they're getting guys like Buster Posey back. I think that they can still find a way to be close to 500 at the end of the year. And then the Padres at number 2. I love what they did with their rotation, getting Yu Darvish, Blake Snell, Joe Musgrove. But I just don't think it's going to be good enough to beat the Dodgers just because they got the reigning Cy Young winner to a rotation that doesn't need him. Like, this lineup lost no pieces, and the rotation got a Cy Young winner. Like, you can't say that. And technically, 2, because David Price is going to come back from the COVID pause. So I think that this Dodgers team's unstoppable. They're my World Series pick right now to repeat as champions. But that's going to do it for our recaps or predictions, rather, of these 6 divisions here. And that's going to do it for this episode of Top Prospects. Thank you for our special guests, Brendan Conroy and Carlos Garcia, for hopping on. And for my partner in crime, Chris Lemmo, I'm Logan Bourandas, and we will see you next time, and have fun at opening day tomorrow.
Thank you for watching this edition of Penn State Sports Night. If you're a fan of our content, please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more clips. Also, follow us on Twitter at PSSN TV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with all the action. For all my colleagues, we are Penn State Sports Night.